Hare Krishna, my dear devotees, welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, right here in the Haven, which is located in Hythe, Kent, southeast England, just a stone's throw from the English Channel. Bhai Das Brahmachari and I are holding down the fort here in our little ashram. We hope you are all well and safe and happy as possible in these troubled times. Fascinating subject matter. So many people are speculating about how the universe came to be. And here we're reading direct eyewitness accounts of what's happened from the beginning of the universe, where our forefathers actually came from and who they were, what they did. Fascinating. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Mahima Stotram by Srila Sanatana Goswami glorifies the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, which gave us the pastimes of Krishna. It goes like this. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Purāṇa Śrīmad-Bhāgavata Prabho Kali Dvandoditaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Shri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Savasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Shri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguru Mad Mahadana Manistadaka Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu saduta dayin atini chochatakara hanamun chakadachin mam premna ritkanta yokspura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we've reached Canto 4, first chapter of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Genealogical Table of the Daughters of Manu. We heard how the universe was created. We heard how Lord Brahma appeared from the body of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. We heard about how he created the ignorant qualities of the material world that would have to be there to accommodate the conditioned souls. Then we heard how he created his mind-born sons, and Swayambhuva Manu appeared from his body along with Shatarupa, his wife. Now we're hearing about the genealogical table of all these persons, beginning with text 56. Narayan Rishi has appeared in one of these, from one of these personalities, and the demigods are greeting him. The demigod said, "Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto the transcendental personality of Godhead, who created as his external energy this cosmic manifestation, which is situated in him as the air and clouds are situated in space, and who has now appeared in the form of Narayana Rishi in the house of Dharma." Purport. The universal form of the Lord is the cosmic manifestation, which is an exhibition of the external energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In space, there are innumerable varieties of planets, and also the air, and in the air there are variously colored clouds, and sometimes we see airplanes running from one place to another. Thus, the entire cosmic manifestation is full of variety, but actually, that variety is a manifestation of the external energy of the Supreme Lord, and that energy is situated in him. Now the Lord himself, after manifesting his energy, appeared within the creation of his energy, which is simultaneously one with and different from himself. And therefore the demigods offered their respects to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who manifests himself in such varieties. There are some philosophers called non-dualists who, because of their impersonal conception, think that varieties are false. In this verse it is specifically stated, Yo Mayaya Virachitam. This indicates that the varieties are a manifestation of the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, because the energy is non-different from the Godhead, the varieties are also factual. The material varieties may be temporary, but they are not false. They are a reflection of the spiritual varieties. Hear the word pratichakshanaya. There are varieties. Announces the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appeared as Narayana Rishi, and who is the origin of all varieties of material nature. Text 57. Let that Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is understood by truly authorized Vedic literature, and who has created peace and prosperity to destroy all calamities of the material world, be kind enough to bestow his glance upon the demigods. His merciful glance can supersede the beauty of the spotless lotus flower, which is the home of the goddess of fortune. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the origin of the cosmic manifestation, is covered by the wonderful activities of material nature. Just as outer space, or the illumination of the sun and moon, is sometimes covered by clouds or dust. It is very difficult to find the origin of the cosmic manifestation. Therefore, material scientists conclude that nature is the ultimate cause of all manifestations. But from Shastra, or authentic literature like Bhagavad Gita and other Vedic scriptures, we understand that behind this wonderful cosmic manifestation is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in order to maintain the regular procedures of the, and in order to maintain the regular procedures of the cosmic manifestation, and to be visible to the eyes of persons who are in the mode of goodness, the Lord appears. He is the cause of the creation and dissolution of the cosmic manifestation. The demigods therefore prayed for his merciful glance upon them in order to be blessed. Text 58. Maitreya said, O Vidura, thus the demigods worshipped with prayers the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appearing as the sage Narayana. The Lord glanced upon them with mercy and then departed for Gandhamadana hill. Text 59. That Narayana Rishi, who was a partial expansion of Krishna, has now appeared in the dynasties of Yadu and Kuru in the forms of Krishna and Arjuna respectively, to mitigate the burden of the world. Purport. Narayana is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Nara is a part of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana. Thus the energy and the energetic together are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Maitreya informed Vidura that Nara, the portion of Narayana, had appeared in the family of the Kurus, and that Narayana, the plenary expansion of Krishna, had come as Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, with the purpose of delivering suffering humanity from the pangs of material burdens. In other words, Narayana Rishi was now present in the world in the forms of Krishna and Arjuna. Text 60. The predominating deity of fire begot in his wife Swaha 3 children named Pavaka, Pavamana, and Shuchi, who exist by eating the oblations offered to the fire of sacrifice. Purport. After describing the descendants of the 13 wives of Dharma, who were all daughters of Daksha, Maitreya now describes the 14th daughter of Daksha, Swaha, and her 3 sons. Oblations offered in the sacrificial fire are meant for the demigods, and on behalf of the demigods, the 3 sons of Agni, Swaha and Swaha, namely Pavaka, Pavamana, and Shuchi, accepted the oblations. Text 61. From those 3 sons, another 45 descendants were generated, who were also fire gods. The total number of fire gods is therefore 49, including the fathers and the grandfather. Purport. The grandfather is Agni, and the sons are Pavaka, Pavamana, and Shuchi. Counting these 4, plus 45 grandsons, there are altogether 49 different fire gods. Text 62. These 49 fire gods are the beneficiaries of the oblations offered in the Vedic sacrificial fire by impersonalist brahmanas. Purport. Impersonalists who perform Vedic fruitive sacrifices are attracted to the various fire gods and offer oblations in their name. The 49 fire gods are described herewith. Text 63. The Agnishvatas, the Barhishadas, the Somyas, and the Ajapas are the Pitas. They are either Sagnika or Niragnika. The wife of all these Pitas is Swadha, who was the daughter of King Daksha. Text 64. Swadha, who was offered to the Pitas, begot two daughters, namely Vayuna and Dharini, both of whom were impersonalists and were expert in transcendental and Vedic knowledge. Text 65. The 16th daughter, whose name was Sati, was the wife of Lord Shiva. She could not produce a child, although she always faithfully engaged in the service of her husband. Text 66. The reason is that Sati's father, Daksha, used to rebuke Lord Shiva in spite of Shiva's faultlessness. Consequently, before attaining a mature age, Sati gave up her body by dint of yogic mystic power. Purport. Lord Shiva, being the head of all mystic yogis, never even constructed a home for his residence. Sati was the daughter of a great king, Daksha, and because his youngest daughter, Sati, selected as her husband Lord Shiva, King Daksha was not very much satisfied with her. Therefore, whenever she met her father, he unnecessarily criticized her husband, although Lord Shiva was faultless. Because of this, before attaining a mature age, Sati gave up the body given by her father, Daksha, and therefore she could not produce a child. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the fourth canto, first chapter of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, entitled Genealogical Table of the Daughters of Manu. All glories to the daughters of Manu and all the sages who became their husbands and all the progeny who now are populating the universe. Such unlimited, intimate knowledge of the beginning and creation and maintenance of the universe. We're so fortunate to be able to hear. Okay, we're going to move on to chapter 2. Daksha curses Lord Shiva. Text 1. Vidura inquired, why was Daksha, who was so affectionate towards his daughter, envious of Lord Shiva, who was the best among the gentle? Why did he neglect his daughter, Sati? Purport. In the second chapter of the fourth canto, the cause of the dissension between Lord Shiva and Daksha, which was due to a great sacrifice arranged by Daksha for the purification of the entire universe, is explained. Lord Shiva is described here as the best of the gentle because he is not envious of anyone. He is equal to all living entities, and all other good qualities are present in his personality. The word Shiva means all auspicious. No one can become an enemy of Lord Shiva's because he is so peaceful and renounced that he does not even construct a house for his residence, but lives underneath a tree, always detached from all worldly things. The personality of Lord Shiva symbolizes the best of gentleness. Why then was Daksha, who offered his beloved daughter to such a gentle personality, inimical towards Lord Shiva, so intensely that Sati, the daughter of Daksha and wife of Lord Shiva, gave up her body? Text 2. Lord Shiva, the spiritual master of the entire world, is free from enmity. He is a peaceful personality and is always satisfied in himself. He is the greatest among the demigods. How is it possible that Daksha could be inimical towards such an auspicious personality. Purport. Lord Shiva is described here as Charachara Guru, the spiritual master of all animate and inanimate objects. He is sometimes known as Bhutanath, which means the worshipable deity of the dull-headed. Bhuta is also sometimes taken to indicate the ghosts. Lord Shiva takes charge of reforming persons who are ghosts and demons, not to speak of others who are godly. Therefore he is the spiritual master of everyone, both the dull and demoniac, and the highly learned Vaishnavas. It is also stated, Vaishnavanam yatha Shambhu. Shambhu, Lord Shiva, is the greatest of all Vaishnavas. On one hand, he is the worshipable object of the dull demons, and on the other hand, he is the best of all Vaishnavas, or devotees. And he has a sampradaya called the Rudra Sampradaya. Even if he is an enemy, or is sometimes angry, such a personality cannot be the object of envy. So Vidura, in astonishment, asked why he was taken as such, especially by Daksa. Daksa is also not an ordinary person. He is a Prajapati, in charge of fathering population, and all his daughters are highly elevated, especially Sati. The word Sati means the most chaste. Whenever there is a consideration of chastity, Sati, the wife of Lord Shiva and daughter of Daksha, is considered first. Vidura therefore was astonished. Daksha is such a great man, he thought, and is the father of Sati. And Lord Shiva is the spiritual master of everyone. How then could there possibly be so much enmity between them that Sati, the most chaste goddess, could give up her body because of their quarrel? Text 3. My dear Maitreya, to part with one's life is very difficult. Would you kindly explain to me how such a son-in-law and father-in-law could quarrel so bitterly that the great goddess Sati could give up her life? Text 4. The sage Maitreya said, in the former time, the leaders of the universal creation performed a great sacrifice in which all the great sages, philosophers, demigods, and fire gods assembled with their followers. Purport. Upon being asked by Vidura, the sage Maitreya began to explain the cause of the misunderstanding between Lord Shiva and Daksha, because of which the goddess of Sati gave up her body. Thus begins the history of a great sacrifice performed by the leaders of the universal creation, namely Marichi, Daksha, and Vashishta. These great personalities arranged for a great sacrifice for which demigods like Indra and the fire gods assembled with their followers. Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva were also present. Text 5. When Daksha, the leader of the Prajapatis, entered that assembly, his personal bodily luster as bright as the effulgence of the sun, the entire assembly was illuminated, and all the assembled personalities became insignificant in his presence. Text 6. Influenced by his personal bodily luster, all the fire gods and other participants in that great assembly, with the exceptions of Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, gave up their own sitting places and stood in respect for Daksha. Text 7. Daksha was adequately welcomed by the president of the Great Assembly, Lord Brahma. After offering Lord Brahma respect, Daksha, by the order of Brahma, properly took his seat. Text 8. Before taking his seat, however, Daksha was very much offended to see Lord Shiva sitting and not showing him any respect. At that time, Daksha became greatly angry, and his eyes glowing, he began to speak very strongly against Lord Shiva. Purport. Lord Shiva, being the son-in-law of Daksha, was expected to show his father-in-law respect by standing with the others. But because Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva are the principal demigods, their positions are greater than Daksha's. Daksha, however, could not tolerate this, and he took it as an insult by his son-in-law. Previously also, he was not very much satisfied with Lord Shiva, for Lord Shiva looked very poor and was niggardly in dress. Text 9. All sages, brahmanas, and fire gods present, please hear me with attention, for I shall speak about the manners of gentle persons. I do not speak out of ignorance or envy. Purport. In speaking against Lord Shiva, Daksha tried to pacify the assembly by presenting in a very tactful way that he was going to speak about the manners of gentle persons, although naturally this might affect some unmannerly upstarts, and the assembly might be unhappy because they did not want even unmannerly persons to be offended. In other words, he was in complete knowledge that he was speaking against Lord Shiva in spite of Shiva's spotless character. As far as envy is concerned, from the very beginning he was envious of Lord Shiva. Therefore, he could not distinguish his own particular envy. Although he spoke like a man in ignorance, he wanted to cover his statements by saying that he was not speaking for impudent or envious reasons. Text 10. Shiva has spoiled the name and fame of the governors of the universe and has polluted the path of gentle manners. Because he is shameless, he does not know how to act. Purport. Daksha wanted to impress upon the minds of all the great sages assembled in that meeting that Shiva, being one of the demigods, had ruined the good reputations of all the demigods by his unmannerly behavior. The words used against Lord Shiva by Daksha can also be understood in a different way, in a good sense. For example, he stated that Shiva is Yashogna, which means one who spoils name and fame. So this can also be interpreted to mean that he was so famous that his fame killed all other fame. Again, Daksha used the word Nirapatrapa, which also can be used in two senses. One sense is one who is shameless, and the other sense is one who is the maintainer of persons who have no other shelter. Generally, Lord Shiva is known as the Lord of the Bhutas, or lower grade of living creatures. They take shelter of Lord Shiva because he is very kind to everyone and is very quickly satisfied. Therefore he is called Ashutosh. To such men who cannot approach other demigods or Vishnu, Lord Shiva gives shelter. Therefore, the word Nirapatrapa can be used in that sense. Text 11. He has already accepted himself as my subordinate by marrying my daughter in the presence of fire and brahmanas. He has married my daughter, who is equal to Gayatri, and has pretended to be just like an honest person. Purport. Daksha's statement that Lord Shiva pretended to be an honest person means that Shiva was dishonest because in spite of accepting the position of Daksha's son-in-law, he was not respectful to Daksha. Text 12. He has eyes like a monkey's, yet he has married my daughter, whose eyes are just like those of a fawn. Nevertheless, he did not stand up to receive me, nor did he think it fit to welcome me with sweet words. Text 13. I had no desire to give my daughter to this person, who has broken all rules of civility, because of not observing the required rules and regulations. He is impure. But I was obliged to hand over my daughter to him, just as one teaches the messages of the Vedas to a Shudra. Purport. A Shudra is forbidden to take lessons from the Vedas because a Shudra, due to his unclean habits, is not worthy to hear such instructions. This restriction, that unless one has acquired the Brahminical qualifications, one should not read the Vedic literatures, is like the restriction that a law student should not enter a law college unless he has graduated from all lower grades. According to the estimation of Daksha, Shiva was unclean in habits and not worthy to have the hand of his daughter, Sati, who was so enlightened, beautiful, and chaste. The word used in this connection is binasetave, which refers to one who has broken all the regulations for good behavior by not following the Vedic principles. In other words, according to Daksha, the entire transaction of the marriage of his daughter with Shiva was not in order. Text 14 and 15. He lives in filthy places like crematoriums, and his companions are the ghosts and demons. Naked like a madman, sometimes laughing and sometimes crying, he smears crematorium ashes all over his body. He does not bathe regularly, and he ornaments his body with a garland of skulls and bones. Therefore, only in name is he Shiva, or auspicious. Actually, he is the most mad and inauspicious creature. Whew. Thus, he is very dear to crazy beings in the gross mode of ignorance, and he is their leader. Purport. Those who do not regularly bathe are supposed to be in association with ghosts and crazy creatures. Lord Shiva appeared to be like that, but his name, Shiva, is actually fitting, for he is very kind to persons who are in the darkness of mode of ignorance, such as but his name, Shiva, is actually fitting, for he is very kind to persons who are in the darkness of the mode of ignorance, such as unclean drunkards who do not regularly bathe. Lord Shiva is so kind that he gives shelter to such creatures and gradually elevates them to spiritual consciousness. Although it is very difficult to raise such creatures to spiritual understanding, Lord Shiva takes charge of them, and therefore, as stated in the Vedas, Lord Shiva is all auspicious. Thus, by his association, even such fallen souls can be elevated. Sometimes it is seen that great personalities meet with fallen souls, not for any personal interest, but for the benefit of those souls. In the creation of the Lord, there are different kinds of living creatures. Some of them are in the mode of goodness, some are in the mode of passion, and some are in the mode of ignorance. Lord Vishnu takes charge of persons who are advanced Krishna-conscious Vaishnavas, and Lord Brahma takes charge of persons who are very much attached to material activities. But Lord Shiva is so kind that he takes charge of persons who are in gross ignorance and whose behavior is lower than that of the animals. Therefore, Lord Shiva is especially called auspicious. And that brings us to almost 8 o'clock. We'll stop here our reading for tonight. And we'll start tomorrow at text 16. And we will patiently wait for the reflections of the Vaishnavas on these very interesting verses we just heard. Hare Krishna.
Okay, first is from Shatarupa.
Shatarupa, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Or is it Shantarupa? I don't know, from Wales.
Shantarupa from Wales.
That's who it was.
Oh.
I missed it. And Sudevi Dasi says Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Sudevi Dasi, Hare Krishna.
And from Anandamurti Devi Dasi.
Yes, Anandamurti.
Dear Guru Maharaj and all the assembled devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for today's readings of Srila Prabhupada's books every day.
Well, the pleasure really is mine, actually. It is so wonderful to read the Bhagavatam like this out loud, loud and clear, you know, with faith and with attachment and with love. It's very, very auspicious. So I'm greatly honored and privileged, actually. So thank you.
And from Vilas Manjari.
Yes, Vilas Manjari.
Dear Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. In today's reading, and also yesterday's reading, I noticed that when the Lord appears, it is often the beauty of his smile and his glance that is described by those who see him directly. Today there was this poetic description of the glance of Naranarayan Rishi. Quote, his merciful glance can supersede the beauty of the spotless lotus flower, which is the home of the goddess of fortune. Unquote. And therefore the demigods prayed for his glance, which he bestowed upon them. We are so fortunate to have access to such beautiful descriptions of the Lord. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam.
Yes, all glories to the Bhagavatam. And we can see, even in the material world, because the material world is a reflection of the varieties of the spiritual world, that actually even in our relationships in this material world, when we get a smile from a friend or a loved one, it's very meaningful. The face is the most important part of the body, and its features are very pleasing, and when it is smiling and magnanimous, it's even more pleasing. So this is the truth, and that truth is there because that quality is there in the original source, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna. So it makes complete sense, both logically and factually.
And this is from Shantarupa.
Yes, Shantarupa.
Dear Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Since we are all Shudras, how come we are so fortunate to have access to the transcendental scripture of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam?
Well, Kali Yuga, we're all born Shudras. But that doesn't mean that we're all Shudras. Those of us who have been fortunate enough to come in contact with the pure devotee in a line from Lord Chaitanya, we get this benediction, we get this mercy. It's called causeless mercy. Lord Chaitanya came, Namo Mahavadanyaya, Krishna Prem Pradayate, Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gora Tvije Namaha. He came specifically to give what no one else has given. Even Krishna didn't give it so freely as Lord Chaitanya did. He gave freely love for himself and taught people how to be perfect devotees of himself. So for that reason, we are fortunate. Despite having taken birth in this inauspicious age, we've received the unlimited causeless mercy of Lord Chaitanya, which flows down naturally to the most fallen. And so here we are, by the causeless mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda, Krishna and Balaram. Hare Krishna.
This is from Sarat Sarvagya.
Sarat Saragya, Hare Krishna.
Dandavat Pranam Maharaj. Yesterday I shared your YouTube channel to my friends to subscribe, and they did 6 subscribed.
Oh, thank you so much.
We will bring that soon, 1,000.
Thank you so much. I'm so deeply appreciative.
Your servant Sarvagya Das.
Hare Krishna Sarvagyadas. Haribo, Haribo. Thank you again and again. It was suggested to me that by Brajabalabha, our dear friends, to make that announcement, and it's working. Smart move. Thank you very much. All right, not many reflections tonight, but beautiful descriptions and expansion of our consciousness, hearing how the Supreme Lord and the great sages who appeared in the beginning of the universe to populate the universe and give the process of sacrifice that we're now going to hear about as Daksha performed. And we can hear that even among such auspicious personalities, there's envy and misunderstanding. We'll hear later how Daksha actually gets the direct darshan of Lord Vishnu, but because of his materialistic tendencies, he doesn't know what to say and what to do, how to act in front of the Lord. This is all very, very instructive. All these pastimes are extremely instructive. Hare Krishna.
And something from Subbarao.
Yes, Subbarao.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances and all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
All glories to His divine grace.
Thank you for your daily readings, Maharaj. It is interesting to know that the word Swaha used in fire sacrifices is the name of the wife of Agni. Bhāgavatam has so much to offer. Question in verses 4:1, 62 and 64. Fire gods' progeny are considered as Brahmavadi. Aren't Mayavadis known as impersonalists? Brahmavadi is translated as impersonalist.
Yes. There's 3 varieties of impersonalists. There's Brahmavadis, Mayavadis, and Shunyavadis. The Brahmavadis are personalities who have taken the gradual path of self-realization, which results in their first realizing Brahman feature, Vadanti vad tattvam yaj jnanam advayam brahmiti paramatmiti Bhagavan iti shabdyate. The absolute truth is known by those who are in knowledge to have three aspects: the effulgence emanating from the body, the supersoul, who is and that's all pervasive, everywhere. The supersoul, who is a localized aspect in the hearts of all living entities and in the atoms of the universe, and ultimately the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So all of those features are Krishna, but they're different aspects of Krishna. The Brahmavadis are those who have taken the path, the gradual path of different sacrifices and things of that sort, and they come to the level of Brahman. The four Kumaras were a perfect example. They were Brahman realized, but they hadn't met the Supreme Personality of Godhead as yet, and therefore they weren't pure devotees. But at the same time, they were not envious. The Mayavadis are also impersonalists, but they don't accept the form of Krishna as transcendental. They accept the form of Krishna as a material form, just like any other form or varieties. They think variety is false. And, well, so the Brahmavadis think that the material world is false. But the difference is that the Mayavadis, they think that Krishna is Maya. The Brahmavadis haven't met Krishna yet, and they don't know about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Mayavadis know about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but they say that he is Maya. Therefore, they're full of envy. And Lord Chaitanya said their association is a path to doom. One's spiritual life is doomed if we hear the teachings of the Mayavadi philosophers. And the Voidists, like the Buddhists, they don't believe in any form or anything. They're also a brand of impersonalists. They don't believe in God. They don't believe that the forms are real. They think it's just, they don't believe in the soul. They don't believe in the difference between matter and spirit. They're complete materialists. Hare Krishna.
Subharal says, thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. See you tomorrow night. Same time, same place, same topic, as we find out what's going to happen in the big sacrifice for the whole universe that Daksa is performing. Hare Krishna.